Hello and welcome to episode 394 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Scott, and today we will be speaking
Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing? This is the Mark and Me podcast with Mark. Why the hell do you think you can just start and record this episode?
We're recording in my house after all, so I thought why not take over the duties.
Well, the truth is, this episode is being recorded in Scotland because I've been up here for the last 3 nights watching Biffy Clyro do their first 3 albums back to back. And let's be honest, Scott, it's probably been the best experience of our lives.
Absolutely. I mean, I got into Biffy after these 3 albums were released. Throughout the years, having seen them play quite a lot of the tracks, it's just been cool to see them play start to finish.
Well, we probably should say that this isn't a Biffy Clyro episode, and on today's episode, I'm joined by Dani Filth from Cradle of Filth, and that's a pretty big deal, isn't it?
Absolutely huge, and an icon of not just British metal, but global metal, so I'm really looking forward to hearing the chat.
So, let's get back to the normality of the episode. You know who the guest is, and I'm absolutely thrilled. Like Scott said, this is someone that I think is one of the biggest names in the music scene. He's an idol, and their performances and live shows are like no one else. And that interview is going to be coming up in literally just a couple of minutes' time. But in true typical Mark and Me fashion, what I always like to do is during the intro of every episode of Mark and Me, I like to touch base and talk about my last episode. And at the moment, as we're sitting here, it's my most downloaded episode of the year because it's Kat Von D. She's been so good to share the episode. Everyone was jumping on this. Loads of new listeners, loads of new followers. And Scott, it must be nice as the listener to see guests coming back for 2 or 3 times.
Absolutely, it's always good to hear them come back, and obviously it speaks to how much you click with them and hear what they've been up to between the interviews.
And before we get to today's interview with Dani Filth, what I do like to do is give a shout out to the sponsor of the podcast. Now, I know, Scott, you're a huge fan of Vice Press.
Absolutely. The artwork that they put out is absolutely excellent. I hope to be adding some new pieces to my collection soon. If
you do add some pieces to your collection, will you use the discount Mark and Me 10? Because that will get you 10% off your first order.
Absolutely, it's a no-brainer. Getting to obviously shout you out and support you with that code as well is a no-brainer, like I say.
Amazing. So if you are in the market, there is a link on markandme.com, but there's also a link on the episode notes today. You can click that, and like I said, if you enter Mark and Me 10 at the basket for any incredible posters or collectibles, you get 10% off. And it's so simple that as you're listening, you can just click the link. It's that simple. And a massive thanks to Vice Press. Now, Cradle of Filth have got a UK tour coming up. They're going to be headlining the Damnation Festival, which I think is going to be absolutely amazing. All the early work from them, and you'll hear about more of that from Dani himself today on the episode. But there's a brand new single. It literally only came out a couple of days ago. It's unbelievable. Scott, I know you were listening to it just before we recorded. What's your thoughts?
It's always good to hear a band evolve throughout their career and still see that they're killing it. So I'm really looking forward to the new album.
That's a long way away now. I think it's like March next year. But in the meantime, let's get straight to the interview. So here's me and Dani talking all things Cradle of Filth. So, Dani, welcome to the Mark and Me podcast.
Hello. Greetings.
Lovely to see you. And what I do with all guests, it doesn't matter if you're an actor, director, a musician, a songwriter, is I always like to take it back to the very start. And as a trip down memory lane, can you remember, for the listeners out there, that first album you were given, or maybe with your pocket money you went and bought, that made you fall in love with music?
Yeah, well, my dad was a record collector and reggae mostly at the time, which was strange because I'm not sure if he really is into it anymore. And so we had a loft full of like very original sort of play vinyls, you know, and it just got me down the path of music. My mum was always into music, etc. Got me into absolute 80s and whatever. So the first CD actually, CD, my God, no.
Yeah. We wish it was a CD as our first purchase.
Album I actually bought with my own money. If it wasn't from like they had a market store in town and used to get, singles, like 10 singles without the
Yeah.
bit in the middle. And then my dad would give me all these special covers for them. But first one I actually bought with my money was The Collection by Ultravox.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I still like that record. I still listen to it every now and then. Cradle did we did a cover, this hasn't come out yet, of The Voice by Ultravox. So yeah, it's that band stuck with me through thick and thin, I think.
This is going to bore you, but I went to a car boot sale with my dad the other day, and vinyl seems to be the hottest thing right now. If you go to a car boot sale, there's dealers and swarms of people running towards these poor people that are just setting up their stalls. But as soon as I got there, Ultravox was there on vinyl, and I was like, I'm going to treat myself. 50p.
Wow. What album was it?
It was. This is where I should have. It's a white cover.
Oh, Selling of Eden, maybe.
I think it was, yes. I should have done my research with names, but I thought 50p. I thought, well, I'm buying that, and then £1 for another one. I thought I'm treating myself today.
Well, that's not boring me. That's a perfect segue, isn't it? I was astonished though. I used to be into vinyl, obviously, when vinyl was about, and I still got not on display, but locked away, shut away, not locked away. Locked is a bit too much. And nowadays, if record companies give me vinyl, then I have it. Glenn Danzig, when we were on tour with him, gave me a bunch from because he loves Noah loves soundtracks, so he got me a bunch from Waxwork Records when he visited.
Oh wow!
But I'm still a CD man. I still buy CDs. Much to everybody's my girlfriend's disappointment, because we're going to move in together, and she looks at my CD collection and is like, the whatever room note is going to be small. And last year I tried organising them all. Took me months. Like, they're all on the floor. I put them into segments and that. Had a new shelf made, and then put it up, etc., etc. And now it's the same effing problem again, where you go, I've got them on the side now. We've got a pile over there. Look, I
can see some, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a small pile, but it's the ones that I've got in the last month, and I'm expecting another one today. And yeah, it's sad, but not as sad as I think as relying on digital. I mean, it's okay if you've got Amazon or something like that, in my opinion. But I find that when you buy your own albums, you have a general more appreciation for them. I mean, if they go in the car, they rarely come out of the car, mainly because you're too lazy to get them out of the CD case and then move them somewhere else. But I find people are too flippant with stuff nowadays. Back in the day when it was a search and rescue mission almost, oh, I'm really after this import. Oh, I can't find it here. Like Slayer back in the day, I had to order from Debenhams. Took me 6 months to get it. Nowadays, you just go, oh, yeah. Oh, no, no. Oh, no. And then move on to the next thing. And I find that kind of demystifies and makes it less magical.
I'm on the same page completely, for the fact that I remember when I was growing up, I'd go to Virgin Megastore or Our Price and I'd buy a CD and it cost me $12.99. So that was for me like a whole week of doing a paper round or something. So if I went and bought, say, Metallica Load or Reload on CD, that was £12.
You got rid of both of those.
I was going to say, I was gutted when Reload came out, but I bought them with my pocket money, and I felt like I had to like them because it was my only purchase. So I'd get home, read all the inlay, smell it, that's that paper smell you get on the CDs that just doesn't smell like anything else. And I had to cherish it because I wouldn't be able to buy another one for another month until I'd saved up. So I would listen to it from start to finish again and again and kind of digest it, where now you say to someone, check out this song, and they literally just go, yeah, it's all right, and then just next. And I feel like it's so disposable.
I totally agree with you that, and because of that very reason, you'd be very finicky. I mean, if you had to do it with buying cars, a large purchase, you'd be investigating for months, checking out all the alternatives, where I could buy it cheaper, whatever. I know it's a broader analogy, but at the end of the day, you would make damn sure that purchase was what you wanted. You wouldn't be, oh, they'll do. Oh yeah, green, green velour inside. Yeah. But the same, music. And when you were young, that's exactly what you did.
Yep. And now I kind of feel like it's swapped with live music because I remember going to like Wolverhampton Wolford and seeing Korn, Limp Bizkit, all these amazing bands when I started out, and they were like £9 or £10. And now, because a gig's like 80 quid if you want to go and watch a decent band, or even more like 100.
Like Ticketmaster or something. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, oh, do I really want to go to this? Because it's like now it's not just one CD a month; it's like 1 gig a month if I'm lucky because of the prices.
Well, it's who you know, not what you know. You know what I mean? You gotta befriend people and get you on the guest list. But with yeah, like £80, the gig's actually free to get in, but that's the ticket, that's the booking, that's the markup you get towards
Christ.
the final price nowadays. Yeah, I'm horrified when I looked at. I was looking at some of our tickets online for our tour, and there was one for 65 quid. I was, who's paying 65 quid for this? I'll bloody let them in free. And it was some booking agent I never heard of. You know, like it wasn't Ticketmaster, it wasn't any of the other,
No.
big ones. All those were very reputable and cool. But it was something, and I was like, that was horrifying. But yeah, I agree. I find it with so many bands touring, especially post-pandemic. Everybody's trying to make up for lost time,
Yeah.
and with so much music coming out on bands, etc., and venue access, then yeah, it's very hard to choose, and I guess that's why festivals are so popular nowadays.
It's insane at the moment. Like every single day, I'm opening my emails, and it's like a huge arena tour from some of the bands I've been waiting years to see. And like you said, because of the pandemic, everyone's playing catch up. I just don't know how you do it. You've got to probably just do download and
Have you seen the
stuff.
lineup for the Sick New World? It's
Yeah, it looks like a make like one of those posters you'd make yourself with a template of your dream lineup.
we did the first one, which was 2 years ago, not last year, year before that. And sorry, not describing what 2 years is like. Um,
Yeah, not one, but the one after that. All right, cheers, Danny.
and when they announced it, it was like, oh my God, this is impossible. How could this be? System of a Down, Corn, Sisters of Mercy. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's like 120 bands of every placebo, blah blah blah. And the weird thing is, it's in one day. The whole thing's in one day. And the new lineup, I mean, it's a bit more metal, but I mean, it's got the Metallicas, it's got, it's
yeah.
huge. And yeah, I mean, that's what it's come down to, I guess.
What about live music? 'Cause that's a nice little segue. When I think I just talked about going to Wolverhampton. One of my first ever gigs was Green Day. I was on the Dookie tour, so I'm 42 now, so that shows my age. And I wondered if your first live gig was one that you admit to people, or was it embarrassing, or was it an absolute awesome one that you've always got up your sleeve?
No, no, the first one I ever went to was Ozzy Osbourne. It was the Ultimate Sin tour.
Oh wow.
It was in Ipswich. I still live in Ipswich. Well, I didn't live in Ipswich then, but I do
Yeah.
now. So fell in love with it. It's literally the Riviera of England. Anyway, but
I've never been to Ipswich, Danny, ever.
no, 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 no. And I'm still here because I haven't found a train station. Um, me
And
and
you
my
did say
friend,
you're moving in with your girlfriend, so are you moving out of Ipswich?
no, no, because she's a tattooist and she wants to be close. We want to be countryside periphery,
Yeah.
right near the park. We actually put out offer for a place near the park, but as things go, it's like both. She's not in a chain because she had a flat in London, but I'm in a chain.
Yeah.
I know where that's going. It's one of those things. But me and my friend for that first gig, we literally got there at 6 in the morning and to buy the tickets and queued up with our little ghetto blaster with the tape button you used
I
to push
love it.
on the stick. And we're sitting there listening to Ozzy Osbourne and that, thinking we're God's gift with our patch jackets. And yeah, it was monumental. It was so good. And that was the time in Ipswich. I mean, the next gig I did in Ipswich was Twisted Sister. Um, yeah, it was amazing. They don't do gigs that big anymore. But yeah,
You started so high. Those foundations you left were so big to start with, like your musical
know, right?
journey.
I know exactly.
God, I thought Green Day was cool, but you've just smashed it out of the park.
I don't know. Green Day seems pretty big.
It was pretty good, but those shows you saw will stay. They're like
Was that must
dramatic,
have
aren't
been
they?
95, wasn't it?
Say again?
When you went to that, when was that? 90,
Yeah, I was 12 or 13, so yeah, you're right. Yeah, 95.
at 95, yeah, yeah. I remember when the album came out, actually.
Just blew up, didn't it? MTV kept playing When I Come Around and Basket Case all the time on loop, and it was like there was that and Bush and the Smashing Pumpkins. It was just constant all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever happened to all those shows as well? I find it very hard, even with the top 40. Used to listen to top 40. Now we're just resigned, but at Christmas to watch, 80s countdowns and stuff like that, because it just finds hard to collate where's this come from? How come, I don't know, Ed Sheeran's like got 9 singles in the top 10? How is that
It's
possible?
bizarre. Yeah, I don't get it. Someone said the other day, like Taylor Swift has now 18 songs in the top 20. I was like, that doesn't work. You're supposed to release one song and play that for 3 months and then build up to an album. Now it's just like because of streaming. I don't even know. I could not tell you today who's in the top 10.
No, exactly. And that kind of nullifies your interest in bands, because I think bands run out of names anyway. So everybody's called this dot whatever, featuring this, featuring that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's what happened to the days Bananarama and Culture Club.
I'm glad the Cure are coming back. I just heard a couple of their new tracks, and I'm excited. It feels like actually something good's happening again, and they're doing this whole thing that they'll never charge more than £25 for a T-shirt, and the gig tickets are like 60 quid. So it's all very. I think Robert Smith's very big on not ripping off the fans. No dynamic pricing, none of that
No
bollocks.
Oasis then.
Exactly. I was trying to say it nicely. But remember, Oasis had no idea about the dynamic pricing, Danny.
Of course, they only give a
But yeah,
anyway. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. I think it'll be a bit of nostalgia,
yeah.
listening to that.
So you guys formed in '91, and I don't want to make you sound too old now and be like, wow, but
But people will do the math and they'll realise I am.
yeah. So I think what I've asked I had Chino from Deftones on recently and Brandon Boyd from Incubus, and I'm always interested in how you sustain and keep on going when it's been 30 or 40 years. These bands where every challenge you overcome, you just keep doing it and you keep wanting to get up every day and be in a band and keep doing music. I wonder what it is for you that's sitting here today still putting out new music and making you have that kind of
Well,
desire.
guess it's the upkeep of the yachts.
Yeah, they need to be cleaned every 6 months. Yeah.
I don't worry. So I mean, first and foremost, it is our job. But in order for music to be your job and not, you've got to keep the soul in there. I'm not talking, you know what I mean. But
Of course.
yeah, you've got to be totally in love with it and everything about it. And I love everything that's around the periphery of what we do, all the influences. I love I love the music. I love the whole process creating. I love going on tour. I like the marriage of it all. I'm all about marrying extremes
Yeah.
together, love and death, whatever. Um, and yeah, I think unless you've got that passion, that fire, and I believe that the pandemic did revitalize a lot of people. I think it
Yeah.
made a lot of people just go, right, I'm giving up now. I mean, this is too much. The music industry was on its knees before, and now I really can't afford to do it. But other people have like gone, well, you know what? We were always striving for something bigger or whatever, maybe something slightly out of our grasp. But now I realize how lucky we were what we were doing before that. And we were very much on the brink of never doing it again. And I think that's rejuvenated a lot of people to take a real long, deep look at themselves and what they're doing. And, suddenly realize this is good. This is a good life. I love what I do. And yeah, that's something that keeps you getting up in the morning. And when I say marriage of extremes, going on tour is great until it's not.
Yeah.
And doing albums is great until you finish them. And it's keeping that balance and a balance with home life as well, because, it can be on the sort of mental awareness side of things. It can grind you down. But if you surround yourself with good people and not idiots and keep a good outlook. I mean, we've got a great management team, and Des, my manager, is one of my best friends. So he gets it. If I turn around and say, look, I know you want to put us out for 8 weeks in America and Canada next spring or something, but you know what? I'm going to be dead then because we're doing this, we're doing that. You got me doing that. And he gets it.
I think the work-life balance is really important, and I don't know what it was about hitting the age of 40, but I would rather. I used to want to be the person that was at the party or seen, and I always had that fear of missing out and feeling like I couldn't say no to people. So I was stretching myself really thin, and the weekends would come, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'll be there," because I don't want to let anyone down. But all I was doing is letting myself down because I was knackered. I didn't want to be there. I'd be looking at how I could get out and get home to my wife as quick as possible. And as soon as I hit 40, I don't know what it was, but I was like, fuck them. Like, I actually just want to do what I want to do. And sometimes I want to say no. And the more I do it now, honestly, I'm so at ease. I'm so comfortable. I get excited about just an early night and not having to. If I miss out on a big festival, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess that happens to everybody. There's that switch that flicks. I was the same as well. Absolutely.
It's
I
a nice
said
feeling, isn't it?
probably about 10 years later than you.
And I've seen that obviously you've got quite a lot coming up. You've got, as we're sitting here, new music tomorrow. You've got the UK dates, you've got a European tour, and you've got the headline slot at Damnation. So it's like we're talking about having a good work-life balance, but you're pretty busy over the next few months.
Yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We kind of work 2 to 3 years ahead. So I know pretty much what I'm doing well till about September next year. But then there's, I know when we're planning to go into the studio next. I mean, that's never set in concrete, by the way.
Of course.
Uh, so yeah, we're continually busy. Like I say, good management team and an eye on keeping that work balance. And keeping fresh as well, keeping fresh with the fans, keeping things going in the right way. And yeah, we're busy. I mean,
Damnation is
I'm
a.
looking forward to the tour, but I'm not.
I get it. I get
We
it.
got back from Australia like about 3 weeks ago, and I've just got into that routine of it's autumn, ugh, shut the doors and everything, and watch the world from inside, put the fire on, movies, be very creative, and now I've got to get up and go on tour for 6 weeks.
Damnation looks a hell of a festival this year, and I love the lineup. And Gavin, I know from his podcast he does, and I'm really excited. And I've wondered how you sit there and kind of put a set list together to try and please everyone, but at the same time, it must want to feel fresh as a band as well. So you must want to put some songs in there that are new to kind of stimulate you and keep you a bit more like, yeah, let's play some new stuff.
Well, we're basically on tour anyway, so we had a set list for tour, and then suddenly we woke up one morning, and then what's this? It says Cradle of Filth old school set list, and I had to find out. I was like, right, okay, so we've got to learn another set now. I mean, it's basically what we've done. So they were in the old school set list. So anything I think from the first 5 albums and first 2 EPs or something like that. And subsequently workload increased. But I mean, we're looking forward to it. It is a good lineup. We're looking forward to doing a festival like I've never done it before. Always intrigued me, and I think headlining it is kind of a bit honorary.
Yeah, it's really special.
Yeah, and it's it's going to break up the tour as well because it's sort of slap bang in the middle of the UK dates.
Do you, I know it's hard, but do you still get nervous before you go on stage? Do you kind of switch on a button on you where you're like, right, now I'm Dani Filth, I'm going to play, I'm fronting this band and I'm putting on a show? Or is there times where you're like, I'm really not feeling this and I've really got to find something within me to really fucking put it out today because I'm really not sure?
Well, I don't drink anymore. I haven't drunk for a few years because the worst thing you could ever have is a stinking hangover going on stage. It's literally the worst. And it will always happen on a tour. If even if you're not a big drinker, it will happen one night. You'll come off, have a great gig. Everything, the stars align.
Yeah.
Your friends are there, etc., and then you wake up with, and you just want to die. That's been taken away, and I don't really get nervous only when there's like family. So London will be a big one for me because there's about 20 members of my family coming, and it's just I try and keep 3 hours to myself. I don't like being rushed. I don't like panic stations. So if I've got those 3 hours, the rest of it can be as busy as it wants. And that's for like warming up, putting the makeup on, socializing with the band, getting a vibe going before we go on. But no, not generally overly nervous. But when I was in Australia, actually back up for I went on holiday in Brazil. We were doing summer festivals, and I had this sciatic nerve problem, and it just got exacerbated throughout the tour. And when I did Australia, I'd been to a chiropractor, and I was like, I'm cured. And then long flights, early morning lobby calls, etc., massive gigs. Really got into them, and I must have been super tired. The very last day, I got up, I could barely walk. I was like this,
Oh shit.
like a lowercase r, and
Yeah.
I had a sports massage, and I was like literally screaming because it was agony, and I didn't think I could do it, and I managed to do it. It's adrenaline, painkillers, etc. And now I'm a little worried that that thing's going to resurface somewhere through the tour. So it's the only thing I would be nervous about. But subsequently, I remember, yeah, 2 hours before, mega pain. How am I ever going to do this? Two hours afterwards, jumping 6 foot off a riser. And as I'm going through the air, I'm thinking, that was a twatty thing. It's going to be painful.
So you give yourself 3 hours before. I know it sounds weird, but do you have to give yourself some time then on the other end when you come off stage? Do you need to be like in your own zone or away from the band or with the band and kind of have like we need to come down now and come back to reality?
Well, yeah, it's more actually more about just clearing your shit up. Um, because before I want to, it's always the case. People pile in. We can sort of give the band 20 minutes and whatever, so they're not sweating messes. And then people pile in, and before you know it, it's like the time, and you go, "Oh shit!" And my bomb sites everywhere. And although we do have some people, someone that comes and like sorts costumes out and everything like that, um, it's still sort of like shit. And you're struggling to the bus. And if it's Europe, generally there'll be like a throng of people around the bus, and you're struggling with, cases, suitcases,
Someone shouting at you, "Come on, Danny, we've only got 20 minutes." Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I'm always the last one out of the venue without fail.
well, keep the tradition, don't change it if it's always going to be that way. At least people know that, don't they now? Someone said to me, I said I was interviewing you, and they said, "Oh, make sure you ask him about his poetry book. Is that's definitely going to happen?" And I said, "I'll make a note of it. I don't normally schedule what questions I'm going to ask, but I will ask that for you." So, is this poetry book going to be coming
Never
out?
gets surfaced, but I started writing about 18 years ago.
Yeah,
And then just because we're always busy, and then some things got translated into other things, and we did a book, and then we did blah blah this and blah blah, all these different projects. And by the time I revisited it a few years later, I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to release this now. And I've just been nibbling away at it. I'm planning to write a book. I've got all the notes and everything. It's just that under new management, we swapped management to Des Anastasia Fafara, but Des is from Cold Chamber and
yeah.
about 6 years ago now. I had to give up my other band because we've just been so busy. He's been so good for us, and we've just had a recent collaboration with not only Ed Sheeran but with Vetements as well, the huge fashion company, and he's always got these great things happening that I'd never find time to do anything, other than if I've got free time, I want to spend it with my family or my girlfriend, and that's precious time.
You're entitled to that, aren't you? You need that as well.
But absolutely, I was being hassled for why am I going on holiday this year? And it's like, fuck me, if I don't go on holiday this year, I'm going to combust.
Yeah.
And I think everybody needs a break. You said about 10 years ago you couldn't refuse people. I couldn't refuse work, and like I'd be sitting in front of the TV, put a film on, and then be too agitated to actually watch more than 10 minutes. Because I feel like turn it on, put my laptop on, and start trying to think of things that I needed to do. Now I'm a little bit more reticent about doing that by realizing, I'd rather spend the next 20 years doing what I'm doing than the next 5 because I'm burning out.
So do you actually get through the whole film now, or are you 45 minutes in before you grab your laptop?
Well, I'm old enough. I need about 3 wee breaks. So.
What about film? That's a good point, actually. Would you ever make a film? Would you like to direct a film? Would you like to write a script for a film or a
we did
screenplay?
Cradle of Filth back in the day, and this
Yeah.
about doing a second one. I've been in a couple of low budget movies, and we've got a cartoon thing that's sort of in the pipeline, and yeah, I wouldn't mind. Been doing a lot of art direction for our videos as well, help
Yeah.
director, and there's been talk and rumors and things like that. It's just that again, Cradle of Fear, when we did it back in the day, it was all sort of self-funded and delayed payment and borrowing people from here, there, and everywhere. And it was a real arduous labor of love, one that I don't think could ever be repeated because it was so successful in its own way that I don't think people would do work for the same. I mean, maybe now because it's long forgotten, but I don't think it would be because it went on Netflix like middle of life. So it would need a hefty investment, and it would also need me to take time off for
I was
a
going
while.
to say you'd have to try and take something away from another area, but then you're just going to have a bit of a meltdown, aren't you? If they're like, you're not doing Cradle for 6 years because you're going to make a film.
Yeah, exactly. If you see some artists and wondering what the effing hell are they doing at the moment, they seem to have disappeared. Unless you've really got the finger on the pulse of what they're doing and you follow them constantly, chances are they're probably involved in working on the next record. Because everybody, you're saying everything's so immediate nowadays. Everybody's like, I know it's going to happen tomorrow. Somebody's going to be like, oh yeah, great, song's okay, next song.
Yeah.
The album out, and then when the album's out, it's when's the next album out? It's like we have this funny thing where people always say come to Brazil. It's become our like sort of maxim now because we were on tour in Brazil, and as at the end, check my Instagram, and there was a thing like, why are you not coming to Brazil? Come to Brazil, Rio needs you, blah blah blah. And it was like, what? And that's kind of the thing. Unless you keep your pulse on what people are doing, they're probably doing something really cool. The thing take time. It's not like the dreadful onslaught of AI where everything is just done now. If you're a painter and you work in oils, it's going to take you a while. If you're writing a book, it's going to take more than a week. It's going to take 6 months to a year. Same with albums. 6 months to a year. That's from inception to them being delivered to the record company, and that's if you're lucky, and that's if the band aren't touring constantly. I mean, it took us a year recording our last record because we were like 2 weeks here, oh, we're off on tour. 2 weeks there, oh, we're off on tour. And then when we did have some time, the producer got his wife pregnant.
And then at the end of it, when it's all finished, you then got to get it printed on vinyl, and that's another 6 months delay at the moment in the world. So
and delivered to the car boot sales.
Ready for me for 50p, yeah.
Exactly.
So how are you feeling right now then? At the moment, apart from the health concern that you turn into an hour walking around all the time, which is, not what we want for you. Are you feeling really good? Because it must be really great having new music out. And I know people are demanding and will want the next single as soon as they've heard this one. But with the UK tour, with new music, with hopefully the poetry book eventually, with hopefully some sort of film stuff coming out, it feels like a really good place for you right now. And we've
got loads of cool things happening. Also, not really worth mentioning, but they all pile up to be. It's exciting, and I enjoy it, and I do feel young. Girlfriend definitely keeps me feeling young. The music keeps me feeling young. I just got to reciprocate that belief and feel that myself. But yeah, it's like Frankenstein's monster being, reinvigorated with some sort of serum.
Night cream and day cream, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the lifeblood of an artist is actually getting the thing you create seen, whether it's crap or not, it doesn't matter. It's just the fact that you brought it to life. Hideous, monstrous life.
What's going to happen is people are going to listen to this interview and hear that you said Ed Sheeran, and I didn't pick up on it. But that collaboration, no one was ever expecting. No one was ever expecting.
Just there, you picked up on it.
I know, but they're going to have a go at me if I don't mention it now. So I'm thinking to myself, when in the world did you ever think you'd see Ed Sheeran with a little acoustic guitar singing his little love songs with Dani Filth? That is the extreme of both, isn't it?
Well, the weirdest thing was back in the day, and I didn't know this till he told me, he was going to, when he was doing his work placement, he wanted to come because he found out that we were recording at a studio, because the guy who owned the studio told everybody we're doing an album then, which was not true. we were just rehearsing there and sort of preparing stuff there. And that's what we always did. But we were taking the album elsewhere. So something happened where he didn't end up coming to the studio because he was a big fan of the album Amphetamine. And subsequently went to work for Ipswich Borough Council. And he owed me his whole career, in fact. And I expect to be gifted accordingly because he said if it wasn't for the fact that I went to work at Ipswich Borough Council, I shouldn't have named it, should I? But they are
No, that's all good.
They are bloody awful. Because he went to work there, he literally said to himself, I am never fucking working a normal job again. This was fucking awful. And that pushed him into, like, I'm definitely doing music. Whereas I think if he'd come to that studio, which was a little run down and whatever, and maybe meeting us when we were like about to go do an album, he may have been pushed out of music and started working at a council. I don't know. But the good thing was, whatever happened and how it came together, he turned up at the studio, our studio, which is in the wilds of Suffolk, probably only about 20 miles away as crow flies from where he lives. He turned up on his own, no entourage, no press, no security, without even asking, because we could have been there with all our mums and everything.
Yeah.
Not
cool at all, sitting there with cups of tea, and then suddenly Ed Sheeran walks in.
He just turns up, guitar slung on his back, drove his wife's Mini over. We did everything, had a great day, absolutely priceless. He was telling me some amazing anecdotes about his life and what have you. And then we went for a pub lunch afterwards, just genuine.
So normal.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Great. And the song is amazing. We're a bit of a mercy of his management because we also didn't want to bring it out to load of, like overshadowing something we were doing at the time. So
that's fair.
Then he wanted to take a blackout year, and then he's about to release a load of stuff, etc. So we're sort of trying to find a slot to put it in, but it's done and it sounds amazing and it's exactly what people expect. It sounds like Ed Sheeran. It sounds like Cradle of Filth. Dryer.
No one's ever going to believe it until you actually play it. You know what I mean? When you actually hear it live, or hear it live would be insane. Get him to come and take you on tour with him. But
yeah,
Ed Sheeran on tour with support from Cradle of Filth at Wembley Stadium.
I can see it. Anyone else can.
So you didn't actually know he was turning up on that day in the studio?
I know he was coming. It was just the fact that it was all done with so much. Not so
there was no spotlight at all.
So less gusto. It was just so down to earth, and he rocked up, guitar literally slung over his back, and we were like, okay, so we sent you a rough of the song, and he goes, yeah, I learned the chords and whatever, and then it was so chill.
I love that.
We've known him for ages, and we're just hanging out, having a laugh, making him cups of tea.
It's insane. I can't wait to hear it. I hope it's not too long as well, because I don't want it to be like a year.
No, and likewise,
So what is left for you to do? If you bring out a poetry book, you have new music, you tour, I do believe you are going to do a Rob Zombie one day and direct a film. I'm predicting it now. I just think it's in your blood. You love your horror, you love your movies when you get to watch more than 15 minutes of them. I do believe one day, I do genuinely believe one day it will be directed by, and it'll be you, especially if you're involved in the art and all the stuff for the visuals for your music videos. Surely it's just an extended version of that.
Well, it has been talked about and there are plans afoot, but I mean, I can't really talk about it. And so it would be a wonderful thing to do. And the horror genre is on a real resurgence of late, the whole grand grignal of it. I mean, we went to see Terrifier 3 last week, and essentially it's a Christmas movie. I don't know why they brought it out for Halloween, but it's so overboard that I believe it went straight to number one in France, which is obviously where the origins of Grand Grignal came from. The whole theatrics and blood, gore and on the stage and what have you. It's about total escapism. And bear in mind, I've had a few weeks off. I've really started getting back and watched some amazing movies of late. I saw The Substance the other day.
Demi Moore in that is just like that for me is like a David Cronenberg film being brought out today.
I thought it was David Cronenberg because it was so body horror.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I was convinced it was him, and I was a little I wasn't disappointed in the lead girl. She's beautiful, but
Yeah.
Demi Moore is, timelessly stunning. And I just thought that was the only thing that it was an incredible film, but the
Yeah.
only thing I thought was like, yeah, you saw the change when she switches bodies, and you thought, I'd been happy with the first one, to be honest.
Spoilers for anyone that hasn't seen the film, but yeah, it's pretty gory and it's not one to watch with your nan at Christmas.
No, it's very gory. It's quite sickening in places, actually, and obviously a total window onto vanity and
Yeah.
pursuit of youth and blah blah blah.
I'm waiting for the day, hopefully it gets nominated for an Oscar, and I just love that to see all these people turning up on the red carpet, all glamorized and everything, and like not realizing the films were basically a fuck you to all of those people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I had Damien Leone on the podcast only last week from directing Terrifier and Terrifier 2 and 3. So he was literally my guest last week, and it knocked Joker 2 off the #1 spot in America. That's how great independent and small, low-budget horror, and it is only low budget. Remember, that film wasn't a lot of money to make.
No, fantastic as well. I mean, the first one was just sort of out there. The second one was trying to encapsulate and move on with it, and had a few plot holes in that. I really like the third one. I mean, just take it as it is, and
Yeah.
all fair play to him. It's a real homage to some of the slasher films of the 80s, and the irony is that in the 80s they had this thing called Black Friday, and it was an Amazon sale. People were arrested for owning copies of films like Zombie 3.
The video nasties, yeah.
Yeah, and Cannibal Holocaust. And nowadays, the irony is that you may get like the opening credits of something like Walking Dead, and you'll see more graphic violence in there than the things like, I think Zombie 3 had like an eyeball being punctured, and Cannibal Holocaust had a few things like, just things you just see every day now in horror movies. And the whole satanic panic thing of the late 70s and 80s just is sort of glossed over. And I know we were that was the sort of nuclear age there, but I think we've come full circle, and people nowadays are so worried about the outcome of, without going too deep on your show, Lebanon, Palestine, and Israel.
Of course, yeah.
And the Russian conflict, and, all the saber rattling about, we may introduce nuclear weapons into it. I mean, I saw that BBC Two had Threads aired again last week. I saw that originally.
That's not been on telly, for over 10 years. It's such a bleak, dark, fucking hard watch, isn't it? It's not something like, hey, let's have a date night and get the popcorn, sweetheart. We're going to watch Threads,
I saw that with my parents. It was, and I was on holiday in Hunstanton.
Bleak.
It was bleak. And I tell you what, if you're talking about horror, there's a book called Nuclear War, a Scenario. I can't remember the woman's name off my top of my head, but it is absolute. If they ever make a movie of that, I think that will halt all world leaders in their tracks, because she's interviewed like hundreds and hundreds of people, from people that man the bunkers at 24, literally 48 hours every day throughout the world, from top leaders, top military brass, to people that make the weapons, etc., Hiroshima survivors, blah, 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 and concocted this literal story. And to cut a long story short, about all the full horror of it, which is beyond comprehension.
Yeah, there's nothing to measure that level of horror.
Come to an end within about 148 hours, like be uninhabitable. Or if it is inhabited, it would be people underground or in places that are so remote, and that even then they wouldn't survive, because they couldn't. There would be nothing to, unless they were all self-sufficient, it would be impossible. And it is just terrible. It really is. There's like little facts in there, like at one point during the Cold War, before they put a sort of embargo on it, and halted the production of nuclear weapons, America was producing about 150 H-bombs a day.
Fuck, a day?
A day. They were just mass producing these things, and each one of them was 10 times more powerful than the thing that was dropped on, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So the thing's mind-boggling. And that, if you want horror,
I was going to say that's another level.
That book's called. It came out this year. It's called Nuclear War: A Scenario, and it's terrifying.
I'm trying to think how we went from having a Sunday lunch with Ed Sheeran to this book.
because we were just talking about horror
Oh,
and
Terrifier 3, yeah, at the cinema, that was it. Making a film yourself, yeah.
yeah. Well, I think but the thing of it was the 80s was overshadowed by
Mm,
the threat of war, and I think people found escapism in horror, and I think that's again.
definitely. That's why Terrifier 3 right now is the #1 film in the world. And
I think we saved it.
yeah, that shower scene in that film, fuck me. That was next level kind of, my God, that scene's gonna stay with me for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. There were quite a few scenes in there actually.
I don't want to spoil it for too many people, but I think you're right. I think that should have come out like I always watch Gremlins at Christmas because it's a Christmas film, it's all set at Christmas, and I think Terrifier 3 should have been first week of December, bam. Best, that and Die Hard, what a Christmas film.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is. It's got that sort of cuddly vibe to it. Just I'd say juxtaposition of or marriage of two massive opposites. Cuddly, Christmassy, feel good vibe,
Yeah.
the complete opposite.
What I'm going to do now is my final question that goes out to all guests that come on the podcast, and this is a fun one, but I do put you on the spot, okay, Danny? So you get to choose the song that's played at the very end of the episode. So after all this is edited and ready for the world to listen to, you get to choose any song or any piece of music by anyone in the world that means a lot to you. And I wondered why it came to you before any other song, and what's the reason why you'd like it to play out after today's episode of Mark and Me.
Oh, I would like to say our new single because that's really selfish.
You can't do that. I've had 400 guests nearly, and only one band's ever chose themselves.
Okay, well, can I mean I'm not two.
Well, I'll do. What I will do, this is the truth, is I'll say this week on the episode I'm joined by Dani Filth, and just before the interview starts, I'll give you a good 30 seconds of the new single.
Okay, fair enough. But then that also does, still means I've got to think of something.
Have you got a million songs in your head right now, or is it not too bad?
I do have a million songs in my head right at this very moment. Yeah, absolutely. All right then. Let's go back to where it started then, and let's go for The Voice by Ultravox.
Oh, nice.
Just
Full 360.
It doesn't represent really me as an artist, but the origins of a young Dani Filth.
I love that. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today, my friend, and it's been one of the easiest and most natural conversations I think I've ever had in nearly 8 years of podcasting. So I'm hopefully going to come to the festival, and I'll come and see your set. I'm really excited to see how you're going to close that.
Hello.
I will do. I promise you. I'll give you my word. And good luck with the new music tomorrow. And I'll promote the hell out of it for you. And I'll make sure I put the snippet of song in for you. And Ultravox to finish it all.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
So there we have Dani Filth. What an absolute legend. Completely surprised me because I kind of got on really well with him. It was really positive, really upbeat, and the time flew. And I was just like expecting a bit of a darker character because of the person he plays in the band and the image and everything. And one of my favourite interviews, genuinely, I had feedback as well from the management that he really loved coming on, and I'm really now excited to hopefully go to the Festival Damnation and see their headline performance, because one of the best British bands out there, they deserve to headline the festival, and I just know the set list is going to be full of unbelievable songs. So that festival is going to be huge, and I do urge you all to go and get a ticket and support Gavin, because he puts on one of the best festivals in the country. The venue in Manchester is absolutely brilliant, and to see Cradle of Filth headline a festival in the UK is worth the ticket alone. But there's so many good bands playing, and Gavin's a good friend of the podcast, and he works so hard, so let's all get tickets and go and support this amazing festival. Also, I want to say a massive thanks to Dani for actually giving up his time and coming on the podcast. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on, and like many guests, I hope you can come back on again in the near future. As we stopped recording, we ended up talking for about another 20 minutes about horror films, and he's a huge film buff like me, so maybe we just come on and talk all about the films we love and that have seen at the cinema, and make it just a movie podcast, because I think that would be great fun. And a massive thanks to Scott, because right now I'm sitting in his house in the middle of Scotland, and I wanted to make sure you still got an episode without a big delay. So Scott, thanks for letting me come, and thanks for being such a good host, and also just being an amazing person.
Thanks very much. Thanks for letting me briefly hijack the introduction as well, and I look forward to hearing the interview with Dani.
And the good thing is, Scott, in 8 years, I've never had anyone else kind of come on and co-host or be there. I mean, that is pretty good. You can be like, I was the only person to ever be with Mark on Mark and Me.
An honour and a privilege for sure. Thanks very much, mate. Appreciate it.
Before we go, we need to give a big shout out to the sponsor of the podcast, obviously Richer Sounds. And if you're wanting to listen to Cradle of Filth on a brand new hi-fi or a record deck, or I sound like a granddad, it should be like a hi-fi. Granddad, get me my hi-fi. I want to listen to Cradle of Filth. But if you want like a new CD player, or you want a brand new streamer, or some Sonos, or some headphones to listen to Cradle of Filth, go on richersounds.com or go and visit any of their high street stores, because genuinely all the staff know all their stuff. They'll make sure you buy some great stuff, and they will not be beaten on price. So thanks again to Richer Sounds for sponsoring us. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, please just take the time to share it. I say this on every episode because it's crucial to the growth of Mark and Me. I am a one-man team. I mean, today Scott's here, so I'm a two-man team. But usually it's just me. I do all the editing, recording, the interviews themselves, all the marketing. So if you can support me by just sharing the episode, it really goes hell of a long way. All the links are on markandme.com to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and basically just hit that retweet button or put it as part of your stories, or just like it. It just helps the algorithm, gets more people to see it. Cradle of Filth are a huge band, so I know loads of people want to listen to Dani's interview, and it just helps spread the word. I don't ask for money. All I ask is you for literally to take your thumb and click 2 buttons to support the podcast. It goes such a long way. So please, if you're listening right now, just do that. I really, really appreciate it. Also go and listen to Cradle of Filth's brand new song. Like I said, it's out now. It's there for you to go and listen to. And then as always, let me know what you think on any of my socials, and I really appreciate everyone taking the time to listen. I'll be back in only a couple of days' time. As always, guys, it's absolutely manic with a brand new episode. It's all now the big build up to episode 400. I think the last few episodes have been some of my biggest ever guests, and I'm not slowing down anytime soon, so stay tuned. I'll be back in a couple of days' time with a huge episode. But until then, look after yourself, listen to Cradle of Filth, and I'll speak to you all very soon.